But it also reminded me that when I was a teenager, my mother would have friends come over the house. I would talk to them in the 80s, how the entire world was going to shop online, that everyone would use their credit cards and pay for and buy things online. And I remember one time my mother said, when I have friends come over, could you not talk about this internet thing? Some of them think that, it sounds a little crazy. No one's ever going to trust the internet for this. And here we are.
Hi, I'm Chris Parisi, host of the AI Wave podcast, the only podcast that combines the world of AI in business with a focus on Rhode Island. In today's episodes with Arnell Milhouse, it's one of my favorite ones so far. We are going to see why I'm so hopeful when it comes to Rhode Island being the leader in this AI-driven economy. Arnell talks so eloquently and succinctly about why Rhode Island is going to be the hub and some of the great things, and there's going to be breaking news he hasn't shared publicly yet on this episode. It's a long one. It's a great one. Get ready and ride this AI wave. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Arnell Milhouse with us today. It is a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Chris, it is an honor to be here with you and with your team, seeing what you've built, and your vision of the future here in Rhode Island is very, very exciting.
Well, you have a very similar vision when it comes to what Rhode Island can be. And we're going to talk a lot about that. But we've known each other. We were together recently on a panel talking about the future of AI, but our audience may not. So tell us a little bit about yourself and, what led you to become this innovative geek, so to speak.
It's really interesting. And as I look back over my life, and I do that often, I look back over history, I look back over my life to see how I can connect the dots from going backwards and forwards. I was born in Roxbury, Massachusetts, single mother family, household. And, we weren't rich. We weren't middle class. We were poor. Didn't have much at all. But one thing that I did have was this burning curiosity and this detective mindset. I always wanted to know how things worked. I never accepted an answer for the answer. I wanted to know how that answer came to be. And so curiosity was an itch that I couldn't stop scratching. And, in terms of technology, everything that I looked at always led to invention, everything around me. And one of the earliest stories that I remember that really lit my mind on fire, my mother had a business. She had a millinery shop where she sold clothing. Samuel Slater, millinery. And she also was an administrative assistant at City Hall. So she had a lot of office supplies. Tons of office supplies, and they were these small manila envelopes. And she had washers and threads and rubber bands and all these different things. And so I took some of these textile components and some of the office components, and I created venomous jumping snake teeth.
What?
Venomous jumping snake teeth. So what I did, I took a couple of the washers, a rubber band, and a square paperclip. I'm not sure if you've ever seen a square paperclip.
Yeah.
And I just tinkering, right? Seeing what could I create with these things. And I took the rubber bands, put them through the washer, and I would wind the washer in between the two loops of the square paperclip 1,000 times. And I would just watch it unfurl and unroll itself. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And through experimentation, I said, oh, what if I took this? It fit right inside of the little manila envelope, small. And I put it in there and I wound them. And then when I put it down, I open it up, it would unfurl, but it would hit the sides of the paper and it would make the thing jump. And the first time it happened, it scared the crap out of me. I was like, what's happening? And I was like, wait. I'm like, this is really neat. So I wrote poisonous or venomous jumping snake teeth. right? Snake fangs. And I brought it to school. And I was like, hey, take a look at this. People, and so the kids would look at it and they would say, oh, what is this? I'm like, be very careful. I'm like, there are venomous snake fangs in here. And so they would take it, they would open it, and the thing, once there was enough of the friction released, the washer would flip and the bag would go flying and people would freak out screaming. And everyone loved it. And so I started manufacturing them and making them and selling them.
Wow.
I was selling for like 50 cents each. And I sold out all of my mother's inventory, everything that she had. And, I remember one day she was like, where are my items? Where is this? And I was like, she's like, where are you getting all this money? Right? Because it was like every kid in school wanted one.
Right.
And as I look back, it's having the mindset to be curious, not knowing necessarily where you're going, but putting things together, connecting dots. That leads to great outcomes, and it's a mindset that is essential for every entrepreneur.
That's wonderful because you combine that curiosity with also imagination, right?
Yes.
And then you layered that on top with entrepreneurship.
Right.
You have those three components.
Right.
You're going to be a successful innovator.
Yes. And another part of that is understanding the human condition. What do I write on this bag? Unraveling washers? I could have wrote that on there.
Right.
And gave it to people, but that's not interesting to the human condition. And so for the human psyche to anticipate what would really, because there's something also interesting. A person's heart rate is at the highest point before they get on a roller coaster ride, not while they're on it. It's the anticipation of something that really pushes their buttons. So being able to really think about what should I write on this thing, and I have written different things, and when I say, oh, this is it right here.
That's great.
Yeah, connecting dots.
So it really started from when you were very young, that itch to iterate and innovate, and it's led to you from starting up Intracity Geeks. You were on TEDx, right? In Providence 5 years ago, talking about the Silicon Road. I mean, I love that. We're on the same language because recently in my op-ed, I talked about how Rhode Island was the leader in the American Industrial Revolution. Why can't we be the leader in the AI revolution? So for our audience that didn't get a chance, and you should, on YouTube, TEDx Providence, Arnell Milhouse, Google it. What was that talk about, and how is that relevant to today?
Yes. The talk was rooted in the idea and the concept, the truth that America's first Silicon Valley didn't begin in California, but here in Blackstone, Rhode Island, in the Blackstone Valley. And that, again, intersecting interdisciplinary cataclysms come together to create moments of opportunity. Samuel Slater, working with the Arkwright Mill technology over in England. And in England, you couldn't leave the country if you had any knowledge or experience working on Arkwright Mills. It was their trade secret. And they knew that if the rest of the world got a hold of it, there would be a threat to their monopoly on energy and power and impact. So Samuel Slater dressed up as a pig farmer, put some pig poop on him, went down there.
I didn't know this.
And so spoke with the Southern drawl is really a Southern London accent. So he put on his Southern London accent and was able to say, I make grace. I'm a pig farmer, right? And they put him on a boat, came to America, but he initially went to Lowell, Massachusetts. And no one recognized the opportunity there.
Lowell dropped the bag.
Lowell dropped the bag. It could be called the Lowell Road, Silicon Lowell. But it's interesting to see how Rhode Island, when he came here, it was Moses Brown and not John Brown. These little nuanced connections, because he spoke to everyone who had any bit of wealth and said, I can do this. And he was really pushed away by a great number of people. But Moses Brown said, let's try this. Let's attempt this lively experiment and see what happens. Let's roll these dice. Because here comes some guy who smells like a pig farmer, probably, right? Who says that he can create this fantastic power that the world's most powerful nation at the time had, right? Or second most powerful nation probably at that point. So it was really, really interesting to see how Rhode Island had this spark that began. And then that trickled in when immigrants were coming in, hitting Ellis Island, they started making a beeline to Rhode Island. And that's what the Silicon Road talk is about, how Rhode Island had this magic, right? But that was version 1.0. And Silicon Road 2.0 is happening starting next year. And so there'll be possibly another TED Talk about that. But more importantly, more partnerships that take place at the private sector, government level to really put Rhode Island back on the map.
Think about that, right? Rhode Island was the destination for jobs, for innovation in those mid-1800s. And we lost our way along the way. And now we have an opportunity. You mentioned earlier, before we started this interview, that disruption is not something that those in power prefer, right?
Correct.
They want to maintain the status quo.
Absolutely.
Well, Rhode Island, we are not the leader currently. So disruption is actually to our advantage. This is why I say we actually have this opportunity, because just like a small business can compete with the Fortune 500 today with the technology, with AI, Rhode Island can compete and be a leader. So what makes Rhode Island that 2.0 version today, combined with the big three, everything that's going on with AI? How can Rhode Island be that leader once again?
We have to really amplify our SETI signal.
What do you mean by that?
SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. I believe that we need to articulate who we are, define who we are, define and then articulate, and really flood the airwaves with that signal that Rhode Island is the place to be for not just quality of life, and I believe that very few states can match us in terms of quality of life, but also quality of innovation, opportunity for innovation. We have to rewrite our Constitution. We have to rewrite our Magna Carta and let everyone, as far and wide, who will listen, know that this is the place to come to innovate, to create the future of not just Rhode Island, but the future of humanity. Because we're not talking about what's happening now with AI isn't just about creating the American industrialization 2.0. It's the global industrialization now of the future that's going to take place with what's happening and what's going to happen over the next 5 years. Not 10 years, 5 years. We have to start yesterday.
I mean, the next 5 years is going to define the next 5 decades,
Correct.
Right, of all of our lives. And AI is definitely one of, if not the biggest driver in it. You've been working in AI for many years, a few decades now. What does AI mean to you? What have you learned over the years? And what makes it different today than it was for the past 15 years? 3 questions in one, I know.
So for me, for the longest time, technology was never a shiny object. And I think one of the most dangerous things today is that AI has become the shiniest object of all. But for me, AI is simply a rung, R-U-N-G, a rung in a ladder. And the lowest rungs in this ladder began with the controlled use of fire, right? and then the invention of the wheel. And all of these rungs are connected to our search and our exploration to fulfill human potential. We didn't leave the caves for food. We left the caves because we said, we think there's more. We think that we can be more. And AI is simply one of those rungs. Now, it's a sci-fi transporter type of a rung.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big rung.
This is a rung that it breaks the laws of quantum realities. So, but it's a rung nonetheless that will accelerate, like a gravitational slingshot, our pursuit of human potential. That's all we've been trying to do on this planet, is reach our potential. And I believe that if you look at the first rung and then the last rung, that AI, where we are today, is only about halfway up the ladder. However, the next 5 years, we're going to go from half to 3/4 in 5 years toward that human potential. And so for me, I've always had my antenna out looking for the rungs, paying attention and observing, right? Blockchain and Bitcoin, 2011. I love economics and history, Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, John Maynard Keynes, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, reading all of Milton Friedman, Free to Choose. So I've always been a history buff. And when people talk to me about decentralized, disintermediated currency, that's self-custodial, all of my friends said, you're insane. You're spending $3 each for this Bitcoin. They called it something else back then. It's rhymed with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But it also reminded me that when I was a teenager, my mother would have friends come over the house. I would talk to them in the 80s, how the entire world was going to shop online, that everyone would use their credit cards and pay for and buy things online. And I remember one time my mother said, when I have friends come over, could you not talk about this internet thing? Some of them think that, it sounds a little crazy. No one's ever going to trust the internet for this. And here we are.
You were right.
Here we are. So I believe that looking for that human potential, the internet was simply a human potential rung, right? AI is a human potential rung. However, we're seeing this convergence of the Holy Trinity. And I know that we're going to be talking about that in a moment. AI, blockchain, quantum computing. As these three threads weave together, they're going to spin an opportunity that is going to transform us.
Let's talk about that. I mean, I agree with the reach for human potential is there's all these rungs on the ladder, starting with the fire and the wheel, right? Yes. My view is that we're creating a new ladder at this point because this is the first time ever where human intelligence is no longer only created by humans.
Yes.
And there's going to be this transhumanism, right?
Yes.
That is going to be created in not too distant future, right?
Yes.
Maybe that's the new ladder at that point.
Yes,
but we're still on that first ladder.
We are, yes.
And AI, as well as quantum computing, as well as blockchain. How do you see those three coming together? And again, let's tie it back to how can Rhode Island be a leader in this innovation hub like it was back in the day?
All right, so three things. We're within our lifetimes, for the first time, human beings will no longer be the most intelligent entities on this planet, right? And we've never been the biggest, nor the fastest, nor the strongest, but what we've had between our ears has put us in the alpha, apex position. And so now we're handing that off.
Yeah,
we're handing that baton off.
That's why people are scary subconsciously. They may not even be aware of it.
Right. And so we know that what we've done with that power for good and for bad. And so there is a proper and right fear to say, okay, we have to make sure that if we're going to create something that not only will be more intelligent, but exponentially. Right now, the smartest people on the planet are 190 IQ. Einstein was 160. As we approach AGI, it will initially have an IQ of 300. And then by the year 2035, it will have an IQ of 30,000.
Jeez.
The smartest humans will have an IQ of somewhere between 300 and maybe 1,000. Augmented.
I was going to
transhuman.
say. Yeah.
Right. Transhuman. So we're approaching a Big Bang moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is our Big Bang. Think about all of creation. We look back in science as far as we can go, and we see this massive, exponentially powerful event. And we're creating one now. With the convergence of quantum computing, a quantum computer with 270 qubits has a processing power that's equivalent of every atom in the entire universe. And we have IBM has a quantum computer called Osprey right now that has 730 qubits.
Wow.
Right? And now you take in these quantum computers only have coherence for microseconds, nanoseconds. But during those nanoseconds, they can process everything, every process and every calculation that's ever happened in history. They can do it 1,000 times over. Jeez. So now you take AI and you merge it with that. It's truly a big bang of opportunity. 30,000 IQ plus galaxies, universes worth of atomic calculation potential. So I think that most people don't really understand where we're about to go. But we're going to be clicking our heels because we're not going to be in Kansas anymore. All right?
Yeah. I mean, if you
paint
the picture well.
So now when you paint that picture, we have to imagine a Sistine Chapel here in Rhode Island. What can we build? How can we be the architects? And how can we lead? And we have such an opportunity here. We have to experiment, the lively experiment.
Shout out Roger Williams.
Shout out Roger the Man Williams, right? And I don't like defining the future. I like exploring, asking questions, and trying to solve the puzzle.
Just like when you were a kid with those washers.
Right.
You didn't know what you're going to create in the end.
Right. And so we have this opportunity to say, come one, come all. Let's sit down, where I do a lot of design thinking workshops. And the first part of design thinking is when you bring as many crazy ideas as possible to the table. And then you let the market figure it out, right? You say, okay, and that's where we are right now. We have to understand that we're in a free market opportunity. And the more we try to control and define what it should be healthcare, should be this, should be that, I believe it's just mass experimentation. And the more we do that, and the more we explore the market acceptance and receptiveness to these ideas, that we'll start creating lightning in a bottle.
I've known that this is the future. It was a gut feeling. Then I researched. It was a formulated feeling. And after talking to you, Arnell, I am 110% convinced.
All the chips in the middle of the table.
Right? We got to go all in on this. Yes. This is a once, I've been saying once in a lifetime, once in a generation, but I need to create a new way to say this is a once in a lifetime of generations. This is how big this moment is. And as one of the smaller states, but that was founded on that lively experiment, that was the leader in the American Industrial Revolution, that has a great quality of life with great institutions and an attitude of Rhode Islanders that can get it done when we are focused and positive. This is the potential. This is the state to be that leader, because why not?
Correct.
All right, this is a great conversation, Arnell. I'm very excited. And as you know, I'm advocating for the AI task force, right? Working with the governor to ensure that Rhode Island can be the leading state in the AI-driven economy by 2030, which means we have to start now. As you just said, the next 5 years are going to define the next 5 decades and beyond of our humanity.
Correct.
But instead of talking about it in technical terms, how can we talk about it to the general populace, right? Who may just think of AI as Siri or Netflix recommendations, or something that's very, very scary that's going to take their job. How do we position it to let the average, the regular Rhode Islander, the average Rhode Islander to understand what this is and how it can be the most beneficial innovation in their life?
We can and we should, and I believe that we have to paint the picture, because what you just said, how can we talk about it in non-technical terms? People don't care about the shininess of technology. They want to put food on the table. They want to secure a future for themselves and their forebears, and they want to feel useful.
Have a purpose.
Have a purpose, right? What is my purpose here? And AI is going to take my job, is going to do this, it's going to do that. We need to have a clear roadmap on how we can go from where you are right now and create a 10x better lifestyle for yourself. Because that's what tools are designed for, right? When I built my chicken coop, I didn't use hammers and screwdrivers the way I did on my grandfather's farm, decades ago. Everything is like pop, nail, zzz, And so how can we make their lives better? And the better we articulate that, has nothing to do with the technology. We want to improve your way of life, and we want Rhode Island to have the greatest quality of life. And here's step A, here's step B, here's step C. This is how you can be a benefactor of this. This is how you can be a participant in the process. What would you like to do?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because the way I see it, we can do all the great things with government leadership, with that private-public partnership. But if the average person is not on board with this, it's not going to work. We need to make sure that Rhode Island is lead. I want to live in a state that is known for being the best and part of the future, right?
Yes.
I'm sure we all want to do that, because if we tie it back into, am I going to be able to put food on my table? And am I going to be having a job? Am I going to live a better life where maybe I can spend more time with my family and loved ones? And positioning it like that without explaining all the technical terms. But AI is going to be part of everyone's life. My 1.5-year-old is going to be tutored by AI. Every single thing that we do will have AI incorporated into our physical space, right?
Correct.
So it's going to be part of their lives, but how can we position it, which you just answered well, that they are part of this solution. Rhode Island being the leader in the AI revolution doesn't happen without the support of the people.
Correct.
So you put it well.
Yes. And to that point, I've been a part of a number of commissions and different administrations here in Rhode Island, and some have been highly interactive or highly visible in the public eye. And when people don't feel included, they revolt, right? And we have to welcome people in for their input and their ideas. At Brown University, I was an entrepreneur in residence, right, in 2019, 2020. But really beginning in 2017, I had a chance to really sit at the table with Danny Warshay and even seeing Jonathan Nelson come in and people like Scott Friend from Bain Capital and all of the startups. And what I really appreciated the most in the Brown University entrepreneurial ecosystem is how much they anthropologically listen and observe their potential customers, their potential users, their potential partners. And I believe that if we go in with this knowledge of, okay, this is what we're going to create, this is what we're offering, you're going to love this and you're going to like it, and Stockholm syndrome isn't that bad, trust me, right? And so we have to have a different mindset of, hey, everyone is welcome to come and share their voice. And I think now with AI, we can have every single individual in Rhode Island contribute an idea and have it parsed via AI to suss out and find these intersecting thoughts and ideas that can spark new creativity. And so there's this concept called RLHF, reinforcement learning with human feedback.
Okay.
And it's literally the secret sauce of large language models. And
True.
Because you can have these machines self-learning, but without the human element that's checking, did you like this answer? And that's really what separates ChatGPT from everything else. Sam Altman and the folks over at OpenAI, they embrace this RLHF more so than any other organization. When we've done it over the past couple of decades, when you go to a website and it says, okay, pick all of the motorcycles.
Right.
We've been helping the AI through reinforcement learning with human feedback, right? So now I believe we have an opportunity to bring everyone to the table. And we can be the first state that implements RLHF for every single citizen. That every day, everything that AI is learning within this state, you can give feedback to. And you can help determine the outcome of this thing. And people can earn a share based upon how much feedback they give. Because if it's the secret sauce for what OpenAI is doing with ChatGPT, how powerful and how valuable is it? Right now, citizens are doing it for free when they use ChatGPT.
Right.
Or Anthropic's Claude, or IBM's Watson XAI, in which we've done some really, really cool work with that, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So we have to, I'm sticking on this point because people in Rhode Island often feel left out. I think even more so than other states. And I've traveled a lot everywhere. People in Rhode Island don't feel included in the conversation.
Which is ironic because we're one of the more popularly dense states.
Correct.
So it's achievable even before AI.
Correct.
But now with AI, we can certainly achieve. That's a great point that we will have to do is ensure that everyone is part of the solution. It's the only way that Rhode Island is going to become that leader. It's not going to be a top-down approach. The top, we need a vision, right? Here's our vision.
Correct.
Here's what's possible. Here's some ideas and investments we're going to make. But what are your thoughts? What do you think? And then use AI to parse it, like you said, is a great suggestion on how to achieve that.
Can I toss out another one of my ideas and visions? So right now within Dev Accelerator, we've been bringing in software developer interns.
Dev Accelerator. Let's explain. Let's first kind of explain our audience what.
All right.
Because you found it, launched Intercity Geeks in 2015.
Yes.
Right.
So Intercity Geeks. I had this idea. So I've always had this insight. I've worked for a number of startups during the .com era in Boston, and the hardest thing for us to accomplish was to find competent software engineers and network engineers, right? It was like giving birth, right? And it always fascinated me. So fast forward to 2015, I said, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come up with a solution, and I'm going to solve the nation's dilemma by having this K through 12 innovative STEM program that's going to be in the high schools and middle schools here in Rhode Island. It took off with a bang got a call from the White House saying President Obama wants to recognize you at the first ever White House Demo Day for what? For Intracity Geeks. You've heard of Intracity Geeks? Wow. Okay, great. And so it was working. But I saw that I did the math. I did some calculations. I said, okay, for me to have the exponential impact that I want to have, it's going to happen in the year 2070 if I do it at the elementary, middle school, and high school levels. And the other impetus was that I could only work with students for 3 months at a time. And then it was a new group. So I didn't have that. I needed longevity. I needed to work with people longer. So Intracity Geeks, we folded, created CareerDevs, which is a computer science institute, which finds, and we searched out and looked for purposefully non-consumers of traditional post-secondary education. Big words for people who don't want to go to college, don't care about college, but don't like the fact that they're working in jobs that are paying $20,000 to $30,000 a year. We would find them, bring them in, teach them software engineering, and they would get jobs making $80,000 a year. From 2017 till last year, we placed over 120 people in those roles.
Oh, wow.
Right. And the folks that came in at the beginning aren't making $80,000 anymore. They're making $150,000 to $225,000 a year now.
Wow.
Because we're really focused on growth mindsets. You're going to come in, you went from being a waiter, used car salesperson, unemployed, substitute teacher making $12,000 a year. We're going to 10x this if you maintain this growth mindset. And like all great inventors, you need to put yourselves and your best ideas out of business. You have to disrupt yourself. And so now we're focusing on Dev Accelerator. And the big idea behind Dev Accelerator is now, before we were focusing on the programming languages. Okay, this company wants Java, this company needs Python, let's create developers for that. But now we're focusing on the bigger tools, AI, quantum computing, and blockchain.
The big three.
Right. And the languages are now just the nail guns and the drills, the electric drills that you can use to foster this greater creativity. So we've embarked upon this mission starting in April of this year to bring in groups of Rhode Islanders and teach them artificial intelligence development. How do you create your own large language model? And for the past 4 weeks, we all participated in IBM's 2023 Call for Code, where we had free access to all of IBM's AI training.
Oh, wow.
All of Watson X AI's power and resources, free accounts to use that to come up with creative ideas, implementing those solutions. And the biggest difference between CareerDevs and Dev Accelerator is that in CareerDevs, you worked on your final project in your last 2 months. We already have students that are 6 months in that have done things that are light years beyond what they were doing in CareerDevs. Because at Dev Accelerator, we're really an accelerator. We're a particle accelerator. It's like the Large Hadron Collider for humans. And we're really, really proud of what we've accomplished in the IBM Call for Code. Out of the 3 projects that we worked on, 1 of them was ready at the deadline. 2 of them are going to enter in for 2024. And but people are seeing, wow, okay, in April I knew 0 about code, and now I'm programming and developing AI. Right? And in this era, we're doing less teaching than ever. In CareerDevs, we were working every day with students. Now we're just teaching them how to access AI to become your teacher. And we're using our 5 years of history, all this knowledge, we're building an LLM that's scraping all of that data that we have from all of our students on our drives.
Kind of fine-tuning your own model.
To help to reduce by a factor of 10 how long it takes for someone to learn and grasp these concepts.
Wow.
So we're not doing the teaching, but we're using AI to compress the timeline, to create this wormhole of thought. And it's mind-boggling to see what they're creating and what they're doing. And even for the programs the platforms that we develop. So we develop software as well with Dev Accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
AI is writing 50% of our code. I would say 30 to 50% of our code. And then we have it check our code and make improvements. And it's a beautiful yet amazing thing. So now let me try to land this rocket from where we started. So Dev Accelerator is really a model for what I think that Rhode Island needs to do to bring more people on board. Because I believe people that had no belief that they could ever code are now working on AI projects. And even in CareerDevs, we've had so many people that said, in my lifetime, I never thought I would ever be a software developer, a geek. Now I'm making $150,000 a year when I started at 80 just 2 years ago or now. Beyond, so once people realize, so for CareerDevs and Dev Accelerator, we never promoted the technology. We simply showed them what opportunities they could reach.
And it's a great point that in order for Rhode Island to become that leader, we need to ensure that we have the skills in the workforce.
Yes.
Right. So this is a critical component of it. The fact that you're already doing it is amazing and even more hopeful for Rhode Island to be that leader. This was a great conversation. We could probably talk for a whole nother hour.
Yes.
So we may have to bring you back for part 2, Arnell. But our producer, Shay, she did bring in a question. She did attend the Cybersecurity and Tech Summit that we were on the panel for
so
a couple
before you
weeks
get into
ago.
Shay's question there, let's talk about one other really, really big thing. Dev Accelerator is what we have right now is really the first stage of this rocket that we're building.
Yep.
Stage 2 begins next year, where we're inviting 12 of the nation's top startups to leave their cities and their states and move to Rhode Island.
So what would be the stage 3?
So first, I think the question is, why would they leave to come to Rhode Island?
Yeah.
Because we're looking to give them between $50,000 to $100,000 per year, each company that comes, one of 12. $50,000 to $100,000 in free software development. We're going to pay their room and board at whatever apartment they live in for 5 years. We're going to give them what a local law firm has agreed to give them $10,000 to $50,000 in pro bono legal services. We're giving them a livable wage stipend as well. Because, and this is the first time I'm talking about this publicly, during my time at Brown and looking at these other accelerators, the greatest problem that these accelerators have is that they're usually 2 to 3 months. They bring in an army full of companies and they say, okay, it's week 1. Let's talk about customer discovery. All right, go. People are working on it. Okay, you're working on it. Nope, stop. It's week 2. Now we have to work on product market fit. Now we have to, stop doing that. And so it's such a short amount of time frame. And the number one cause of mortality for startups is a short runway. Because most startups start with an idea, they interact with customers, and they figure out, okay, the direction that we were going isn't the greatest idea. So we need to pivot. Right? We need to pivot over here. Okay. And then they go back to the customer. Customer says, yeah, that's nice. And now they work with more customers and they say, that's nice, but you should actually be doing this. And they say, oh, wait, we have to pivot again. Too late. You ran out of runway space. The VCs have their money in you and they have their hooks and their fangs in you as well. And they need to get that return. You had a year and you didn't figure it out. your runway ran out. So we figured out at Dev Accelerator that if you gave companies the pressure, because you need a pressurized container, the atmosphere and the ability to learn the best entrepreneurial education in the planet. And we have that here in Rhode Island. But also a longer runway. Come to Rhode Island. For every year that you succeed, we'll give you the same incentives to stay another year. But for every year that you stay, you agree to stay one more past 5. So if you stay for 5, you stay for 10. You agree to hire 80% of your employees out of Rhode Island, right? And so, because these famous incubators and accelerators, there are probably 2 or 3 hits that come out every year. But I think that we can do 12 per year by giving them longer runways. And then we can start to scale that. Then we can do 24.
Right.
Then we can, right? So we can really grow this exponentially. Oh, the other thing that we're doing, one of the biggest parts, so we're giving them $50,000 to $100,000 worth of software development. But as I've traveled all over the nation, everywhere I go with my team, and we go to these tech events and these technology developer conferences, like I don't like to go to like the shiny conferences, but we love going to the developer conferences, finding out what's on the cutting edge. And when we go, we find so many entrepreneurs that have all these wonderful ideas, and they look at us like we're like Princess Peach, right? Because they're like, oh, y'all know how to program? Right? And they want to buddy up with us. So we're also developing through Dev Accelerator as they come here. We're developing their platform, but our developers that are working on that will stay on board to become their lead software engineer, their CTO, and potentially their technical co-founder, which is like the elusive unicorn that so many entrepreneurs need to find. I need a technical co-founder. How can I find that person? Well, the person that's been working on your product from day one, when you came here through Dev Accelerator, has matured and the reason why we do this competition with IBM is because they have to ideate their own ideas. They have to work in teams.
Right.
And so that's creating this. That's what CareerDevs didn't have. It didn't have the entrepreneurial piece. And our partnership with IBM is really helping to spark that piece. So software development is AI, it's quantum computing. IBM has the most powerful quantum computing. So I believe we're about to really do some amazing things here. And then we're also working on this project where another organization that I'm a part of has brought a cancer researcher who's on the breakthrough of making some major discoveries in terms of cancer research and cancer prevention and cancer healing. So now Dev Accelerator is working with this researcher that's moved their company from their state, came here, is researching out of Brown. I've tied them into the entire IBM Watson X AI ecosystem, and we're crunching each patient that they work with for 3 hours, they get over 1 billion data points.
Wow.
So now we're working on all that. So you're talking about access to data. So amazing, amazing things. And there are just so many interesting things going on. We'll be talking about that actually on November 9th. IBM is holding a tech event at CIC.
Okay.
And we're going to be on that panel.
Oh, I'll definitely have to check that out. November 9th at the CIC.
So now for Shay's question.
Yeah.
Shay.
So our producer, Shay, she does have a question. She was at the Cybersecurity and Tech Summit a few weeks ago, and you gushed about your chickens. Yes. So I think the people are dying to know, which I think means Shay is dying to know, what can chickens tell us about AI, and how can AI make their lives better? You even talked about the chicken coop.
Yeah, so the chicken coop was designed with AI. I use AI with my sons to come up with a design for it. First, we purchased one. And I showed them we went to Tractor Supply, brought it home. I said, okay, now let's use AI to engineer a better design. And so now we've created this chicken mansion for them that was designed with AI, and then we had to do the work to implement it. Right. And it's really, really fascinating. My wife was like, I didn't know that you could do this. I said, well, we're humans, right? We have this brain in our head. So the other thing that we're looking to do, so we have these Raspberry Pis and Arduinos with these cameras on them. So as the chickens, the way the chicken coop, they have to come out one by one. And so we have a camera that we're installing, and we're taking video and photos of the chickens as they come out every morning, front and rear. And so that we can, the AI can identify anything that would lower the quality of their life. It could be mites on their eyes, and it will analyze their skin tone. And so same way that you have apps that can scan a plant and it can tell you what's wrong with the plant, we're looking to do with chicken health, because there's a ton of chicken data because people eat a lot of chickens. Right. We don't eat our chickens. We love our chickens. They're like our pets. They produce eggs for us.
Yeah.
And so we're able to use this AI to alert us to see if there are any conditions. And we're also able to use the cameras to scan at nighttime to see if there are any other critters that are coming in. And we've created something called, we're creating something. We've already architected and designed it, something called NORCAD, the Northern Radar Chicken Aid Defense System.
Instead of NORAD.
Instead of NORAD, it's NORCAD. And what NORCAD is going to do, so I live out in the Johnson Scituate area, which is farm country.
Yeah.
And we have farms to our left and right and all around us. And so everyone has chickens, cows, goats, and all types of livestock. People will be able to buy this system that me and my sons put together, stick it on the pole like a scarecrow. It's the new modern version of a scarecrow. And it will do a couple of things. One, it will have, and these cameras, these are inexpensive systems. It's less than $100 to build one of these. 2 cameras looking at the sky, 360 degrees. 2 cameras looking at the ground, 360 degrees. So whenever it identifies a hawk flying above, we get an alert. All the neighbors that have the NORCAD system get an alert that there's a hawk, because we like to let our chickens free range.
Right.
Right? Because it's not great having them cooped up, no pun intended.
I think the pun was intended.
So it was. So we have them, we have this technology that can identify and tell the difference between a crow and a hawk.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we can also, what about a fox? What about a coyote? We can get alerts for all these things that's scanning your property. So anything that comes and approaches your property, either through land, air, or sea, right? You can be ready. You can get alert, and then any neighbor can click on it and see where that threat is and what vector they're traveling. Oh, they went from the Joneses farm. Now they're over at the Wilberry farm. Okay, it's traveling in our direction. Okay, threat level. And so now you'll get a DEFCON level.
Yeah. It's
heading towards you, and so you're on DEFCON 5, DEFCON 4, DEFCON 3. And so this is something that I'll be working with my sons with over the next year or two. But it's a fun way for them to sink their teeth into AI. And we'll have our Dev Accelerator students work on it as well. And we don't call them students anymore, our Dev Accelerator interns. So there are so many things that we can do with AI, to even looking in the nesting box when they are and seeing what their birthing process is like. Are they birthing at the right time interview from the time that they start to the time that they finish? Are there any complications? And so now you need to look at the birth canal, what's going on there. And so
from chicken coops to quantum computing.
Yes.
We
quantum coops. Yes.
Well, Arnell, it was great chatting with you. We could definitely have a whole nother hour, so I'm sure part 2 will be coming soon.
Indeed.
And I look forward to working with you to make Rhode Island that leader in this new AI-driven quantum computing world that we're going to be leaving.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the question, Shay. Thank you as well. And thank you to your entire team, and looking forward to working with you.
Amen. Wow. All right. I could have talked to Arnell for a whole nother hour, but we're going to have to bring him back on. I have more questions and ideas. I want to hear from you. What other thoughts and questions do you have for Arnell? Leave them in the comments. What do you think about people like you being involved in the process of Rhode Island being that leader in this AI revolution like we once were in the American Industrial Revolution? I never knew that Samuel Slater came on a ship smelling like pig. So this was a good one. I appreciate Arnell for coming by. Thank you to our producers, Shay Weintraub. And I'll catch you all in the next episode of the AI Wave.